Sophia's POV. I wandered around town after school, scoping out the different stores to find anywhere that could potentially be hiring. The bustling streets were filled with a mix of trendy boutiques, cozy cafes, and the occasional dive bar as my stomach tightened with anxiety after each rejection. The first place I tried was a quaint coffee shop with a warm, inviting atmosphere that unfortunately would have been the perfect fit for me. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and pastries filled the air as I stepped inside, hopeful at first. I approached the counter, where a barista with a friendly smile greeted me, only before my prayers were quickly crushed. "Hi, are you hiring by any chance?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady and positive. "Sorry, we're fully staffed at the moment. We just hired 2 new girls," she replied kindly, though her words felt like another punch to my gut. "You can leave your resume though, and we'll keep it on file just in case anything changes," she suggested, as I nodded and forced out yet another disappointed smile. I thanked her quickly and left, feeling a bit defeated but determined to keep going, knowing that I had no choice but to find anything at this rate. I continued on down the street, checking out every store window for help wanted signs that didn't exist and even proceeding to ask a few more shop owners directly. But the results were all the same, no one was hiring. As the evening approached, I found myself on a less busy street, one I hadn't explored before. The neon lights of a bar called Intensity caught my eye almost immediately as I swallowed hard and huffed out a breath. It was a stark contrast to the serene coffee shop and cute stores I had tried earlier on, that was for certain. But maybe this place was my last hope? The sign flickered, giving off a slightly seedy vibe, but I was desperate at this point. Perhaps I would be too young to work in there, or perhaps they would overlook it and give me something small like a cleaning job at least. There was only one way to find out. I took a deep breath and crossed the road towards the bright light, pushing open the heavy door with my elbow. The dim lighting inside made it difficult to see at first, but as my eyes adjusted, I noticed the bar area was relatively quiet at this time, which helped to ease my nerves. "Hey missy, we ain't open yet," a stocky guy from behind the bar hollered over at me as I quickened my pace to approach him, watching him dry empty glasses with a cloth. I reached the bar, where the man with a shaved head and a tight black t-shirt eyed me intensely, giving me a stern look. "Can I help you? Or can you not hear?" he asked, his voice deep and gravelly as I swallowed the thick lump which was quickly forming in the back of my throat. "Hi. Yes, I was wondering if you were hiring anybody? I really need a job, and I'm new to town, so it's pretty hard finding something," I asked gently, my voice almost drowned out by the soft music due to how quiet I was speaking. He studied me for a moment, his expression unreadable. "What age are you?" He raised a questioning brow, as I diverted my gaze nervously. Do I lie? But what if he finds out and the bar gets into serious trouble? Maybe I'm better just being honest about it. "I'm 17, but almost 18. I add the last part out of desperation, as he shocks me with a deep chuckle. "So what position are you wanting exactly?" He seems to continue our conversation out of boredom, as I shuffle from foot to foot and watch him wipe down the bar countertops next. "Anything, really. I can clean, serve drinks, take orders. What would you be looking for?" I rush out, feeling the weight of desperation in my words as I was grateful for the man even giving me a chance to speak with him. "When young and pretty girls come in here, it's usually to dance for dollars." He shrugs and scoffs. "Dance?" Confused, I slowly ank my head around to take in the entirety of the large room around me for the first time, instantly spotting a number of platforms and poles. "Oh, I see. Well, I did take dance lessons for years. I could maybe make it work." I wet my drying lips, my mind racing to comprehend what I had just said. Was I agreeing to work as a pole dancer? Would I have to remove clothes like a stripper? The guy shakes his head, seeming amused with my pleading, as he places his 2 hands on the bar and leans forward. "You are too young to dance. I could maybe have you behind the VIP bar upstairs, if you don't tell anybody your real age. That way you won't be serving the majority of freaks that come in here either. I'll pay you in cash to keep it on the low though, yeah?" He rushes the words out at me, as my eyes widen when realizing he was actually giving me a chance. I did it. It may not be my first choice, but it's something. "I'll need you to work nights on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I'll pay you weekly. We open at 8 p.m. and close at 2 a.m. and I'll pay you $300 every week, and you can keep any tips that you make on top of that," he explains, as I open and close my mouth like a guppy. "Thank you so much. Seriously. I needed this job way more than you even know. Sorry, what is your name? Are you the owner?" I rush out, reaching across to shake his hand as he laughs and returns the gesture. "Tito. I'm not the owner, but I'm the manager, so I'm in charge of the staff. He nods, as I smile, appreciating that one of the scarier guys in town turned out to be the one to offer me a job. Ironic. $300 every week was perfect too. That would be $1,200 every month, more than enough for my rent. I could get back on my feet in no time with that. Come by tomorrow at 6 and I'll show you the ropes, then you should be set to start on Wednesday this week. Does that suit? He explains, turning to ACH down in search of something. He quickly retrieves a notepad and pen, biting off the lid with his mouth and spitting it aside before twisting the pad to open a fresh blank page. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. I respond, before he continues. I need your name and contact number. He waves the pen as though I was supposed to know he wanted that before he said it, as I furrow my brows in fear. Crap. I don't own a phone, sorry, but my name is Sophia Isabella. I tell him truthfully in embarrassment, as he pauses in thought, staring at me as though I was an alien out of space, before moving again to write down my name. You don't own a phone? At your age? That's unheard of. Tito raises a questioning brow, as I nod in agreement with him. I know it sounds odd. What 17-year-old girl has no contact phone? I lost it, but I'll get a new one as soon as I start getting paid. I offer, hopefully helping to make the situation sound a little better as he nods and sighs. I'll see you tomorrow for your training, thanks for coming in and don't be late. He waves me off with a short smile, as I thank him briefly and take the hint that he was now bored and wanted me to leave. I did it. I landed a job in town. Now I don't need to worry about my rent. I can stay here. Sophia's POV. I sat at the back of my English class, tapping my pen absent-mindedly on the desk. Mr. Thompson's voice droned on about Shakespeare, but my mind was elsewhere. Tonight would be my first night of training at Intensity, and I couldn't shake the nervous excitement coursing through me, grateful to have finally landed a job. What would it be like? Would Tito be patient with me or a nightmare boss? I had never worked in a bar before, let alone one with the kind of reputation Intensity seemed to have. He even mentioned something about me working upstairs in the VIP lounge, whatever that meant. Lost in my thoughts, I barely noticed the hum of chatter from the other students whispering around me. The classroom, with its faded posters and rows of wooden desks, seemed distant. I was so engrossed in imagining what the bar would look like in full swing that I almost missed the scrunched-up piece of paper that landed squarely on my desk in a swift motion. Startled, I glanced around and saw Vincent smirking at me from across the room. He gestured for me to open the note, his eyes twinkling with mischief as I opened and closed my mouth, dreading whatever was on it. My heart sank. The last thing I wanted was more attention, especially from Vincent, who already seemed to enjoy making me the center of unwanted jokes. I was hoping that he would have meant to pass it to someone else, but judging by his thrilled expression I had guessed wrong. With nervous fingers, I unfolded the paper, aware of the curious stares from the other girls in the class, some of which not looking so pleased with the interaction. My cheeks burned with embarrassment as I smoothed out the crumpled sheet. Inside, I found a quick comic-like sketch that Vincent had drawn. The first panel showed a girl, clearly meant to be me, carrying a lunch tray towards two guy characters. The second panel featured one of the guys with a speech bubble that read, "Meh," as the character seemed to judge the lunch with a disgusted look on its face, evidently representing Vincent again. The final panel depicted the girl tripping over a foot and falling flat on her face, a comical shriek emanating from her open mouth, reenacting the way his friend had tripped me up yesterday. My face turned an even deeper shade of red as I realized the sketch was a cruel parody of my encounter during lunch yesterday. Embarrassed and hurt, I quickly scrunched the paper back up and tucked my head down, hoping to hide my blushing cheeks from the many stares I was receiving. That was good enough for Vincent though, as I glanced over at him briefly to see his smug arrogant look plastered across his facial features like a rash. Why me? The room seemed to close in on me, and I could hear a few stifled giggles from nearby, clearly having peeked at the paper as I was inspecting it. Vincent chuckled softly, clearly pleased with himself, as I checked the clock on the wall and prayed for time to speed up. I clenched my teeth, determined not to let him see how much his mockery had affected me. I took a deep breath and tried to focus on Mr. Thompson's lecture, but the words seemed to blur together once again, feeling Vincent's unwavering gaze settling down on me. All I could think about was the note and how foolish I must have looked to everyone as I fumbled to open it. He evidently put a lot of time into it too, with the details, and what was worse was that he actually seemed to be pretty good at drawing. Just as I was about to sink further into my seat, Daryl, a guy I only knew thanks to the register at the beginning of class, leaned over and whispered, "Ignore him, he's just being an ass to get a reaction." You're his new plaything, it seems. He explains, seeming openly comfortable to talk about Vincent, which I found to be odd. Why wasn't he mousy like the other guys in the class? I wish I wasn't, but thanks. I reply softly, allowing myself to melt into Daryl's kind sky blue eyes as he offered me a lazy smile. His hair was blonde and messy, yet the style suited him well. He was another guy at this school with an athletic build and great height on his side. Maybe that's why he wasn't so scared? I reckon he could match Vincent in a fight if he really tried just by the size of him. Don't sweat it, he likes toying with females, in a fucked up way. It basically means he's fascinated by you. Daryl laughs loudly at his own statement, earning a harsh shush from the teacher which causes him to roll his eyes. He didn't seem bothered by anything this one. You seem to know him well? I test, feeling Vincent's hot gaze landing on us both every once in a while, which causes me to squirm and shift in my chair. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I do live with him, sweetheart. Daryl suddenly breaks the news, as my jaw practically hits the floor below. What? I gasp slightly, disbelief that Daryl lived under the same roof as the guy who seemed to be making my time here at school a living nightmare. Daryl leaned back in his chair casually with a meek nod and a shrug, seeming unbothered by the fact as I blinked profusely to comprehend the information. Were they friends? Maybe cousins? It made no sense. Daryl at least seemed somewhat decent compared to his evil housemate across the room. As the class continued, I forced myself to concentrate on the lesson, knowing that dwelling on Vincent's antics and his relationship to Daryl would only make things worse. I couldn't wait for the day to be over so I could focus on my new job, since that was all that truly mattered to me right now. Despite my nervousness, the thought of earning my own money and gaining some independence was thrilling. Maybe I could even get out of my dreadful apartment. The bell finally rang, signaling the end of class as I gathered my things up quickly, eager to escape the classroom environment. I hurried out of my seat, trying to avoid any more interactions with Vincent, but as I made my way towards the door, I heard his mocking voice call out to me from behind. Hey, Sophia. Vincent's tone was dripping with sarcasm as I turned back to glance over my shoulder reluctantly. You better bring me something better than yesterday for lunch today, he jeered, a smirk playing on his lips. Wouldn't want another meh performance now, would we? He concludes, earning some snarky giggles from two nearby hovering females. The laughter from his entourage echoed around, making my cheeks flush with a mix of embarrassment and anger. I clenched my fists, trying to keep my composure, knowing that it was no use against someone like him. Come on, Vin, what sort of kick do you get from this? The poor thing is shaking like a leaf whenever you interact with her. I turn to hear Daryl's bored tone, as Vincent scoffs and waves him off. Fuck off and go find your sense of humor. Besides, she likes it. Vincent grins wickedly, flashing his perfect smile as I sigh at his comment. I certainly don't enjoy it one bit, but what else could I do? This was Vincent's school, and I was only an outsider. Sophia's POV lunch rolled around too quickly for my liking, quickly becoming another joyless part of my day. As I stood in the lunch line, my stomach churned with anxiety. What would I get for Vincent this time? Yesterday's choice had apparently been too boring, and he had made it clear that I had better do better today. I hated the thought of catering to his whims, but I couldn't handle more mockery during class. The cafeteria buzzed with the usual lunchtime chaos. The clatter of trays, the hum of conversation, and the occasional burst of laughter from groups of friends filled the air. I shifted nervously from foot to foot, glancing over the selection of food options as I neared the counter. When it was finally my turn, I was greeted by the same lunch lady from yesterday. Her warm smile was a small comfort in this otherwise daunting school. Hello again, dear. What can I get for you today? She asked, her voice kind and inviting. I hesitated for a moment before leaning in slightly, lowering my voice. Do you know Vincent Walker? I asked, deciding to shoot my shot. Her eyebrows raised in mild surprise. Oh dear, who doesn't know Vincent around this place? She replied with a light chuckle and a shake of her head. Taking a deep breath, I decided to take a chance. Do you happen to know what he usually orders for lunch? She hummed thoughtfully, tapping her chin. Vincent, huh? Let me think. He's a fan of the Cajun chicken pasta. Spicy, flavorful, just like him too. She winked at me. I nodded, grateful for the insight. I'll take 2 orders of the Cajun chicken pasta, please. And 2 Cokes. The lunch lady's expression softened with understanding as she began to serve the pasta. You're sweet, you know that? Trying to please Vincent, it's no easy task. She sighed, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and concern. I forced a small smile. Thanks. I don't want any trouble. I'm new. I tell her the fact despite that she probably already figured that for herself. She nodded knowingly and quickly packed the pasta into 2 trays. Here you go, sweetheart. And don't worry about your lunch, I'll keep it aside until you get back again. Take care of yourself, alright? She offers, making my life so much easier. Thank you, I replied, genuinely grateful for her kindness. Balancing the tray, I made my way through the cafeteria, my heart pounding with each step as I exited and headed for the gym hall lockers to find Vincent. It didn't take me long to reach the area in the school that he seemed to occupy like a king, finding him standing with the blonde who had tripped me, the dangerous-looking one with the shaved head, and Daryl from English who offered me a small wave. Vincent looked up as I neared, a smirk already forming on his lips. Well, look who's here with my delivery. I started to think you wouldn't show today. What did you bring me then, Sophia? He drawled, his tone dripping with condescension as he said my name, which sent a shiver up my spine. I carefully set the tray in front of him. Cajun chicken pasta and a Coke, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. He raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by my choice. Not bad, he admitted, taking the tray from my hands, balancing it on one hand before moving to grab the fork. His friends watched him, waiting for his verdict as he shoveled the first bite into his mouth. He chewed thoughtfully, then nodded. Much better than yesterday. You might be learning after all. He chews, as the others laughed, Daryl offering an eye roll to his humor. As Vincent and his friends laughed, I felt a small surge of relief that today's choice had been a success. Just as I was about to excuse myself, 2 cheerleaders rounded the corner, their presence like a sudden storm clouding over the atmosphere. The redhead leading the way had a wicked snarl etched on her face, her eyes narrowing furiously as she folded her arms across her chest and stared daggers through me. Her friend, a blonde with an equally menacing look, flanked her side. I could feel the tension rising as they approached. Feeling increasingly uncomfortable, and with that I attempted to leave. But just as I passed the redhead, she extended her hand, stopping me in my tracks. Her grip was surprisingly strong, as she dug her acrylic-clad free hand into my chest. Who the hell are you? She snaps, as I blink and turn back to the boys in hopes that they would help to save me. My new personal lunch lady. Vincent states aloud, as though it was a normal thing to say as my temperature continued to rise. What? Listen, sweetheart, but Vincent is mine. The redhead hissed in response, her voice low and venomous. Don't you dare think you can just waltz in here and take what's mine. He doesn't need you to get his damn lunch for him. Her finger jabbed into my chest again, harder this time, making me wince and retract. Vincent's laughter abruptly ceased, as he passed the lunch tray to one of his cronies. Kim, back off. You're fucking embarrassing yourself, he warned, his voice cold and commanding. He stepped forward, his eyes locked onto the redhead. Kim, however, seemed undeterred. Oh, please, Vincent. She's just a little mouse. She really thinks she can replace me, she sneered, her words dripping with contempt. My heart raced as I stood there, caught between wanting to flee and the fear of provoking her any further. I don't want any trouble, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper, living up to the whole mouse remark. Kim ignored me, her focus solely on Vincent. You think this little nobody can take my place, she continued, her tone growing more shrill. You're making a mistake, Vincent. You'll regret this. Look at her, she looks dirty. Her words cut me deep, considering I had always tried to keep my appearance up with what I had. Vincent's eyes darkened, his jaw tightening. That's enough, Kim, he said, his voice dangerously low. He took a furious stride towards her, closing the distance between them. I'm done with you. Leave and don't look in my direction ever again. Kim's face twisted with rage and disbelief. You can't do this to me, she spat, but her voice wavered slightly, betraying her uncertainty. Watch me, Vincent replied coolly, his eyes challenging her intensely. Realizing she had lost this battle, Kim turned on her heel, her friend trailing behind her like a fart lost in the wind. But not before she shot me one last venomous glare, her eyes promising retribution. Great, another enemy. The moment they were out of sight, I could feel the adrenaline crashing, leaving me shaky and lightheaded. Surprised by Vincent's unexpected defense, I managed a quick, thank you, before fleeing the scene. I didn't dare to even look back as I hurried back to the lunch hall, my mind racing. Reaching the cafeteria, I found a quiet corner and sank onto a bench, trying to process everything that had just happened. The lunch lady noticed my return and handed me my tray with a sympathetic smile. Everything all right, dear? She asked gently. I nodded, not trusting my voice to explain. Yeah, just a lot to take in, I replied, forcing a small smile. As I picked at my food, my thoughts were a whirlwind. Vincent's unexpected defense left me more confused than ever. Why would he break up with his girlfriend for acting that way towards me? It seemed so out of character, unless he was notorious for breaking up with girls whenever they grew jealous and possessive? That made sense. Who knew? But all I could say was that Vincent Walker helped me dodge a bullet with that one. Sophia's POV. The final bell rang. As I hurried my way out of the school building, my mind racing with anticipation and anxiety about my first night of training at Intensity. The walk home was usually a time for me to decompress and gather my thoughts, but today, my thoughts were a jumble of nerves and excitement. I clutched my bag tightly as I made my way down the increasingly familiar streets, my thoughts pounding in my head as I wondered what sort of training I would be put through. I had just turned the corner onto the main street lined with stores when I heard footsteps quickening from behind me. I glanced over my shoulder, surprised at first to see Daryl jogging to catch up, his easygoing smile lighting up his whole face. "Sophia, wait up," he called, his voice warm and friendly as I squinted slightly, wondering why he was rushing towards me. I stopped, evidently surprised to see him. "Oh hi. What's up?" I asked, trying to hide my nervousness as I forced out my response. He caught up to me, slightly out of breath from the brief jog. "I wanted to apologize for what happened at lunch today. Kim and Rachel, that was just uncalled for. I know Vincent can be a real dick sometimes, but they were both way out of line for getting involved. It was shitty," he concludes, as my eyes grow wide with each passing word. My mind raced to comprehend the interaction, with how he had rushed to catch up with me just to apologize for the girl's behavior. "That's actually pretty sweet of him." I offered a small, grateful smile. "Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. It was pretty intense, but I'm okay. I just hope it won't cause any other problems at school, with me being new and all. It's pretty hard already," I admit, as we begin to stroll together slowly. "Do you mind if I just walk with you for a bit longer?" "I could walk you home," he asked, his tone genuine as I had to clench my jaw to prevent it from hitting the pavement below. I hesitated, glancing down the street that would eventually lead to my flat. The area I lived in wasn't exactly one I was proud of, and I didn't want him to see it. "Actually, could you just walk me to the park instead? It's just a few minutes from my house anyway," I suggested, hoping he wouldn't press for more details. But thankfully, he nodded without question. "Sure thing." As we walked, I found myself relaxing a little in his presence. Daryl had a calming aura about him, and his easy conversation helped to distract me from my worries about the upcoming evening. "Can I ask you something?" I test, unsure on how he would react to what my question was, but deciding I was comfortable enough to ask him anyway. "So, how come you live with Vincent?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "You two seem so different." I added the last part cautiously, not wanting to offend him in any way. Daryl chuckled, shaking his head and looking up at the sky briefly. "Yeah, I get that a lot. But there is a reason for it. Vincent's parents work abroad a lot, and they left the house to him to finish school here. He didn't want to live alone, so he asked a few of his closest friends to move in. That's pretty much how I ended up there." He shrugs, as I nod once and stare down at my feet. "So, you guys must be really close then?" I confirm, realizing that my true thoughts and feelings for Vincent would have to remain locked away. "This was his friend, and a good friend at that." Daryl nodded. "Yep. Vin can be a tough nut to crack, but he's not as bad as he makes himself out to be. He's got a lot of pressure on him, and sometimes he doesn't know how to deal with it. He's harmless when you get to know him," he defends, as I almost laugh at his words. "Vincent? Harmless?" I struggled to be. "Eli, that. He's under a lot of pressure?" I echoed out loud, intrigued as to what he meant by that. "Yeah. His parents have high expectations, and he feels like he has to live up to them or they will cut him off. His dad's an ass and it makes him act out sometimes, but deep down, he's a good guy. Plus after today, I think he actually likes you," Daryl explained, his tone sincere. I scoff at the last part, unable to believe such words. "Vincent does not and never will like me. How ridiculous." I mulled over his words, trying to reconcile the image of the arrogant, condescending Vincent with the person Daryl was describing. It was hard to imagine, but Daryl's sincerity made me believe there was maybe more to Vincent than what met the eye. As we approached the park, I realized how much I was enjoying Daryl's company. It was the first person in town who had so far opted to spend time with me willingly. He was easy to talk to, and his insights into Vincent were enlightening to say the least. "Thanks for walking with me, Daryl," I said as we reached the park entrance. "I really appreciate it." "No problem, Sophia. Anytime, he replied with a smile. You just seem different to the other girls, more down to earth and sincere. He hums to himself, cocking his head to the side to eye me as I shift under his gaze. Oh, you think so? My tone flutters out, as my heartbeat quickens, with an eruption of butterflies dancing from within my stomach. Seriously, you're a breath of fresh air. Are you sure you don't want me to walk you all the way? He pushes, as I suddenly snap from my thoughts. Oh, it's okay. I'll see you around though? Thanks for the company. I nod and smile, lifting my hand to offer him a small wave. I'll see you tomorrow, he states in conclusion, throwing me a quick wink as I almost faint and fall weak at the knees. Was this some prank? Why would he be this kind to me? We parted ways, and I quickly made my way home, my mind zing with everything that had just happened. Daryl's words about Vincent lingered in my mind as I quickly showered and changed into a more practical outfit for work, dark jeans, a fitted black t-shirt, and my trusty sneakers. Great, if I leave now I should get there early. As I made my way to Intensity, the nerves from before quickly returned with each step. But I also felt a flicker of excitement for the opportunity to make decent money. This was a new beginning, a chance to prove myself and maybe, just maybe, find my place in this new town. When I finally reached the bar, I paused outside, taking in the sight of the neon sign which read closed on the front door. It wouldn't be open for another few hours, which was better for me as I could actually learn and not have to be stressed about it. This was it, my first job.